Welcome to Back from the Brink Games. Josh and Scott here again. We are back to talk today about Bioware and their pantheon of games and their new upcoming game that seems to be looking like it's going to be pretty good. So we want to go back and look at the history, which we have a lot of history with.
A little retrospective of
Yeah.
the Bioware franchises.
And kind of go through our history with it together because it was a real major part of our friendship.
Yep.
But first, have you been playing anything recently?
Nothing that interesting. I've been watching a lot of Stardew Valley happen. So that's interesting. Yeah. There's a lot more depth than you would think from the initial surface layer to that game. There's a whole lot that you have to do. So
Yeah, I've put a lot of hours into Stardew in the past.
Yeah.
It's got a loop for sure.
it's pretty loopish.
Yeah. Every day you finish the day and you go right into the next one, and then
I have strong opinions about factory farming and industrialization and how, in that game it pays off to sell out early and not do what you want, but just try to get some production going so you can buy things, because things are expensive at first. But
you seem like a Joja Mart guy.
well, no, because the Jojo Bart seeds were more expensive, so you gotta go buy them from Pierre to save a little money. Anyway.
That's it's very true. So a lot of watching. I've been watching games.
I would say I've been backseat driving a lot.
How's that working out for you?
It's going all right.
Usually
I haven't
that goes
annoyed
well.
someone that bad, just yet.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. I'm well. You know me. I'm a bit of a dabbler.
You dabble.
And
Yes,
I have been dabbling. I had to write down everything I've dabbled because I don't remember everything. And there's some good stuff though that I've been playing. So I played this game I got on Steam called Tiny Glade. Have you heard of this game?
Haven't heard of it.
It is you build little like cottages and castles, and it's super mellow. You just build them. It's all procedural based, like where things go and how it builds. It's really smart, and it's fun and relaxing. And I think you should check it out. It's pretty cool.
All right.
It's very pretty too. I did start playing Metal Gear Solid 5 again on Steam Deck because
Because you needed a sneaking game.
I need a sneaking game, and this game's a way better sneaking game.
Yeah.
Which is good. I beat it before, but just kind of jumped back into that. I started playing WWE 2K24 because it's the game of the month on PS4, PS5, and that's okay. It's good. I just want it to be what the old Aki games were from the past, but it's fine.
So do you want to go into kind of what you liked about the older games that now they don't do well?
I liked the kayfabe back in the day of when you played as Undertaker, you were Undertaker, or if you made a character, that was your character. And you could be some ridiculous cartoon character.
Yeah.
But now, if you do My Rise, is what it's called, where you create your character and they come up through the ranks or whatever, try to get the championship. Like the first thing you do in that game is you start tweeting and texting, and that's not interesting to me. It's like the metaphor that I use is like, I don't want to go play like an Indiana Jones game and play Harrison Ford.
Playing
going to the trailer and being like, hey, I got to read my lines before I go.
6 hours till you got to go on screen. You got to sit in the makeup chair.
And then, I got to tweet. I got to do my promotional video. Right, yeah. So I just...
got to go on Conan. I feel like there's There's a
That's
30
my
Rock,
Indiana
I feel
Jones
like,
game.
I think there's a 30 Rock episode where they do like a video game about Jenna's life or something, and she's got to go on Conan and like hit the button or whatever. Anyway, I feel like that's real, but or not real, but a joke I've seen before.
Yeah, so I just want to like, I like the fantasy part of it, not
Yeah.
the I don't want to know how the hot dogs are made kind of thing. I don't want to play that game, but that's just me. So you know the mechanics and everything are good, but it's like the premise of the game isn't really what I'm looking for.
You're not role playing.
Right.
You're simulating.
Yeah, they want to be a sports simulation instead of
That's pretty lame.
Let's see what else. Oh, so I went back and I played the Trespasser DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a 10-year-old game that I got DLC for. But with the Veilguard coming out at the end of the month, which is the newest Dragon Age game, the Trespasser DLC concludes the story. It's like the real ending of Inquisition, which I beat in 2016, but I now have really beat it. Cool. And so, yeah, I went in really apparently underleveled, and I had to put the difficulty all the way down, but I got through it. It was fine. The story was good. There were some cool parts, but overall, I mean, meh. It was nice to dip my toes back into that world and kind of get a refresher of the lore there. And when I did that, then I decided I was going to go check out Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah.
So then that's the first Dragon Age game.
Yeah.
So I played probably like 3 hours, 4 hours, the opening of that. And you know what? This is a 15-year-old game. It holds up pretty well.
Let's get into that when we talk about the Bioware franchises. I think that's a perfect segue.
Good call. Okay, I played some co-op of Space Marine 2 with my buddies Thane and Joe. And that game is just fun.
We have in detail talked about how much fun that game is, yes. And it is, like, I believe you.
And then, all right, the Starfield DLC, Shattered Space, came out. I started, bless you.
Which you don't want in the middle of a recording, but it's all good.
Stop all bodily function. Yeah. I haven't really played the DLC, but I tried to get back into Starfield. It's not going to happen, I don't think.
No.
It's just not what I'm looking for right now. Also dropping on Game Pass was Sifu, which I have really wanted to get since it came out on PlayStation. I think like 2 years ago, maybe no longer than that. But it's good, but I'm not so sure how long I'm going to play that. But that's a martial arts game. Okay. It's a fighting game, kind of. You fight through different stages, and it's cool. It's really cool. It's got a lot of style. And then the new season of Vox Machina just dropped. The Legend of Vox Machina. I watched the first 3 episodes. Pretty good.
I did as well.
Pretty good. What do you think?
I'm enjoying that in general. Yeah, it's good.
I like that show.
Yeah, they got me with the 3-episode drop. I miss the days when they would drop whole seasons of things because I don't feel like anybody does that anymore. And so they got me. I was like, oh, it rolled into episode 2, and I was like, I'm gonna get a whole season of something, and I can binge it, And then I got to episode 3, and it was over, and I was disappointed.
I don't know when the 4th episode drops. I'm ready for it. It's a good season so far.
Yeah, I watched all the new season of Rings of Power.
Is it good?
It depends on your expectations.
I stopped like a couple episodes in the first season.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your expectations, and I'll say 2 things about it. If you're a major Tolkien fan, you'll probably hate it for reasons, because I just don't think it's really. If you're like a canon, this is canon, that's canon kind of person, you're going to hate it. And if you're just a big fan, it's the same thing with us in Star Wars. Like, there's like stuff that I'm sure you're like, it's not the way it's supposed to be, and like you don't like it. And I think that's part of it. And then it just kind of has the same problem that every franchise that wants to be a episodic thing, like Game of Thrones or whatever, it's just like, okay, we have to get to like 10 episodes, or 8 episodes or whatever. But we have 2 big battles. That's going to be episode 7 and episode 4. And the rest of the episodes are kind of just set up for those 2 big things that are going to happen. And they like set up 100 different things that all come together in one finale episode. But it's like the other 7 hours of TV are kind of boring at times. You know what I mean? Like,
Do they have any big battles that you can't see at all because it's so dark? Because that's what I like in a show.
Scott, it's your TV settings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Okay.
I definitely saw the Battle of Winterfell in full detail, like nobody else did.
You're the only one.
I know.
So, all right. Well, let's get into our conversation of the day, which is going to be on BioWare. I think it's safe to say this is one of our mutual favorite companies, at least it was.
Oh, yeah.
Development companies. Both of our favorite games of all time, I think, are on this list of games that they have produced. So BioWare was launched in 1995 by 3 doctors. And I always heard it was the 2 doctors, Ray Muzica and Greg Zeskuk. And I never knew there was a third guy, a third doctor who was with them, Augustine Yip. And he, after Baldur's Gate, which is the second game they developed, I think it was after Baldur's Gate, he was just like, no, I'm going to practice medicine. He still practiced medicine in Canada. And it's interesting because whenever you hear people like talk about it, they never mention him because he left the company. But
Yeah.
I read an interview with him and he was like, yeah, I never really even think about it. Like, that's just not, people ask me all the time, like, oh, do you regret it? And I would imagine since these guys became, CEOs of a multi-billion-dollar group, that he would regret it, but he apparently doesn't regret it. But
I think at a certain point you can't really. You have to kind of move
yeah,
on with your life.
yeah. And I don't know, if he kept share in the company or whatever, and
Yeah,
or
probably
what.
not mad if he kept shares. Yeah, it's really okay.
So so they started right out of, they graduated from medical school, and they had an idea for a game called Shattered Steel, which was a game it's like a mech warrior type game. It was a DOS game, so I'm surprised you didn't play it.
Oh, I am pretty sure I have. I haven't. I didn't go look to see, like, is it something that I've absolutely like.
I think that you probably, this would have fit right in line with a game that you would have enjoyed. It seems like, I never played it.
It seems mech warrior-ish.
Yeah,
which was always good.
you got your laser cannons and Gatling guns. So they like shopped this out, and multiple studios came back with bids for it. Like and then they ended up working with Interplay, and they worked with Interplay for a while until Interplay was no more. But Shattered Steel, not really like well recognized, but it's a DOS game. Yeah, it's definitely, it looks exactly like X-Wing or TIE Fighter. Exactly.
Oh, yeah, it's got similarities. Yeah. It's honestly, it's mech. It's giving me mech warrior.
Yeah, I was just joking, but it is I watched some videos, and it's not, it's a DOS game from 1996. It's so people don't really talk about it that much whenever they're talking about.
It doesn't really fit the rest of BioWare's history, right? They kind of went away from this style.
Yeah. So interestingly, the guys who started the company, they were tabletop gamers too, and they wanted to do a role-playing game. So they created an engine, and they again shopped out this engine of I think it's called Battleground Infinity, and when they did, Interplay, I believe, was like, well, we have the license for Dungeons and Dragons, and this would be perfect. Yeah. And so Baldur's Gate was the game that came from that. And this is an epic legendary game that I've actually never played.
Yeah, it's I've played a bunch of Baldur's Gate 3, but Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2 are 2 that I have not actually played, but I've watched a bunch of videos about people talking about them. So again, it's like top down, but turn based in an interesting way, where it's not like Baldur's Gate 3. Each individual player, you roll initiative, and you have different players do their action for their turn. In this Baldur's Gate 1, in this system, they basically, you give instructions for the next time period, and your soldier, your players do what they were told. So everybody's moving kind of at the same time, just in chunks of time.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was 1998.
Yeah.
It is very well reviewed, very well remembered.
A lot of people like
and
it.
It's
Obviously,
spawned a couple
big
of games.
franchise.
Yeah. Now, I mean, Baldur's Gate 3, how many decades later, but
Sure.
it's was well regarded, a 91 Metacritic score, pretty good.
Yeah. people like it.
But it's one that actually, I take it back, I did play it for about 10 minutes, but that was like a year or two ago.
Okay.
It's it was the like enhanced edition or HD edition or whatever that came out, but it shows its age a bit. I don't have much else to say about it because I didn't really play it, but I think we got a couple of you can see the difference.
Just top downness, right? And then know this is the inventory character screen kind of thing. Yeah.
So after Baldur's Gate, they developed a game called MDK2. And this game I did play. I played it on Dreamcast. I'm pretty sure I beat the game. It was a long time ago. This came out in the year 2000.
Whoa.
It had an 83 Metacritic score when it dropped, but it was really fun. Third person shooter. Again, it doesn't really play into what we know of BioWare's like pantheon of RPGs, but it was fun. The combat is kind of third person action fare for the time. And I think we got a couple of pictures of the different, it's not going to set the world on fire now, but this was 24 years ago. But yeah, I mean, Andy has a glider. Oh, this is big now.
Yeah, it's big time.
Gliders in every game now.
Can I ask a question? Because this guy looks like some kind of robot guy. What's with the dog and the scientist?
I don't remember any bit of the story of this game. I do not.
Because this makes the dog look like the main character. I thought the main character was the dog when I saw this, but
You play as all three of them.
Okay.
So you don't just play as the guy with the pointy helmet.
Yeah.
You play as the dog for part and the scientist for part.
Okay.
And I always wanted to play with the guy with the pointy helmet, and I was always mad when I wasn't playing as him because I was, And
the dog smokes a cigar, so he's pretty cool.
That's how you know you're cool back then. You smoked.
Yep.
All right. We're going to skip. We don't have pictures for a couple games, but that's fine. Baldur's Gate 2 came out. Better than Baldur's Gate 1. Many people feel it had a better Metacritic score. Not that means everything. It was a 95 Metacritic score. That's pretty dang good. That's like in the top echelon of games. There's not many games that have a 95 and above Metacritic score.
No.
And again, I didn't play this. I wasn't at this time. I wasn't doing a lot of PC isometric RPG, CRPG gaming. So I just missed. Sounds like you were kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, I was into PC isometric games, but they were all strategy games and not RPGs. I wasn't an RPG player, so. Yeah,
and the next game on their development list was Neverwinter Nights in 2002. Don't bring up Jolie like that.
Sorry.
It's a jump scare. Neverwinter Nights 2002, 91 Metacritic, also really good. Same, it's same engine. Again, I don't have a lot to say about it because I didn't play it.
Yeah, but also in the Baldur's Gate universe, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And then now we're getting to where I became a Bioware fan, and I think you and I had just met.
Yeah.
When Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was released in the year 2003.
Yeah, this was a big deal.
This was my freshman year of college.
Yeah.
We had just met when this came out, and we were like playing KOTOR, TVs next to each other, bathrobe hoods on
Yeah.
with our Logitech wireless Xbox controllers.
This is a really good controller.
That was
really
one of the
good
best.
controller.
That was like one of the first wireless. That was one of the good wireless controllers there. But we
It like had all the best aspects of the Duke and the smaller
The S,
like
yeah.
Xbox controller. It had all that kind of rolled up into one wireless. It was great. It was a great controller. I'd forgotten all about that controller until just now.
We're using the Force to play video games back then.
Yeah.
But man, I figured that we would probably talk about this game for a little while because
I would call it influential in my gaming career. Very influential.
And what, of course, whenever you talk about this game, you got to talk about the twist in this game.
Spoiler alert. Everyone.
Spoiler
We're
alert
gonna
for a
talk
game
about the
that's
twist.
way old. And if you haven't gotten this one already, then you deserve it because you should have played this game.
You should have played it already.
So
This is your punishment for not played it already.
It goes out to the viewer. I like that blew my mind. That blew my mind when you play for this game for like, I don't know, 15, 20 hours.
Yeah.
And you've got the trope of you lost your memory, you don't know what's going on, all to find out that you're the big bad.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's great. Isn't it?
It's
I really like the way that, and again, this is a common thing in a Bioware RPG like this, but the you lost your memory character setup is great for not only that, but also for the and now you get to learn all the things you didn't know.
Yeah.
All the force powers you didn't know, all that kind of stuff is cool.
Yeah. And this is why we need to tell you about all the history and the lore and what's going on in the world because you don't remember anything. But I don't think there's ever been a game that has made you. I don't think there's been a game that's had such a great character as Jolie Bendo.
That's true.
The patron saint of Back from the Brink games.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's ever been a game that has like done that kind of switcheroo on you where, and unlike other mediums like reading, like in literature and novels, you read a book, you're reading about a character. In a movie, you're watching a character. But in this, you create that character. That character is like you.
Yep.
Or whatever you want to role play. And then you come out and like, so when it's this shift of, oh, by the way, you're Revan.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what? And it's such a different feeling playing a video game as a character than you can get from any other medium.
Yeah. They did a good job of pulling a twist in a game where you role play. So you are deciding who you are, but then that they twist it into, but yeah, hey, by the way, you're the big bad, which is a great narrative device that honestly started me out on liking some of these RPG games like that. I mean, again, I wasn't a big RPG player, and this was such an excellent storyline that it kind of ruins me on some other games when they don't have a story that can really set its hooks in and get me interested. It's one of the things I'm looking for nowadays in anything I play for any amount of time is getting really interested in what that narrative is going to be. So no, I completely agree. Massively underrated, even though it's celebrated. I still think it's underrated.
Yeah,
right.
The only thing I would change about this game is the first 10 hours when you're using a sword, a vibroblade.
Yeah, the vibroblade stuff. Because you got to get to the force power part of it, right?
Yeah, and I get it, I guess. I mean, it makes you don't just like...
One of my favorite differences between Disney Star Wars and pre-Disney Star Wars. Pre-Disney Star Wars, a Jedi was rare to see. Yeah. So all the games, didn't matter if you eventually became a Jedi. Nobody just started out as like, you have all these Jedi powers and here's the 30 other dudes with Jedi powers. It just wasn't like that. It was like, every game was like, oh, you're just this, and you eventually get your Jedi powers.
Kyle Katarn had a whole game where he wasn't a Jedi.
Yeah. And I honestly kind of feel like they could have kept it that way. Still, it's pretty cool.
No, I mean, man.
I mean, it's cool.
Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight is like so good.
It is a great game. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like they missed an opportunity to continue.
Bring back Kyle Katarn.
Bring him back.
He's the best character. He is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars of all time. Just because I think it's probably just he didn't really have much of a character. I mean, he was Han Solo.
Sure.
But then he became a Jedi.
There was an opportunity, and maybe they'll do this with. They'll do it on the show with what's his name, the guy that there's a recent show that.
Andor.
Yeah, Andor. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I basically kind of wanted it was a vehicle where you could have kept Star Wars shooters as a genre, like could have kept through the Doom and Quake and all those shooter years. You could have kept like a pure shooter going, but I like what they did narratively with them. It's not a big deal, but
yeah. Except for I think it was Jedi Outcast. The bad guy in that was like a Sith. T-Rex.
Yes, he was.
That wasn't great. I didn't get that, but
that's exactly my point. It's like I love the idea of Jedi Knight 2. Part of me was like, man, I wish they'd have left a character that could live in that just grab a blaster and shoot at things world. But
now you got Cave S.
Yeah,
but this game was good.
Yep.
And when you played it a second time, okay, so this is Jolie Bendo. You meet him in a swamp.
He's got a song.
He does have a song, which I sang to myself today when I pulled this picture up because it is his hymn.
It is,
of the patron saint Jolie Bendo. But we won't sing it today.
No, that's not happening.
No, you can only sing it while swinging a lightsaber running through. Man, we are some cool kids.
Yeah.
So, anything else that you can?
Are we talking about the KOTOR franchise with this as well?
No, because Knights of the Old Republic 2
is not BioWare.
Was Obsidian, which
Can I say something controversial? I think I might have enjoyed KOTOR 2 more than KOTOR. It might have just been a control scheme thing. Mm-hmm. Narratively, I don't think you can get better than the Revan twist in KOTOR.
Yeah.
But the control scheme was great.
Yeah.
It was a much improved.
Yeah, I think it was improved
which is
in the gameplay.
I think that's that happens sometime with these older titles, right?
And Obsidian was good at doing that.
Yeah.
And they did that. And then they also did Fallout New Vegas. And they were a trusted team to come in and do follow-up RPGs for people. Yeah. And I think that is, I don't know how controversial it is. I mean, everybody loves the original KOTOR for reasons that we've stated, but I think KOTOR 2, I really like that game too.
Yeah.
Oh man, we didn't talk about the Ebon Hawk though. Ebon Hawk is a pretty like classic Star Wars spaceship.
I feel like a lot of those games, obviously the Moldy Crow, stuff like that, a lot of those older LucasArts games had the pre-Disney, they had a nice like classic Star Wars ship. I guess you have that in The Mandalorian for a bit. You had it. You don't.
You did, yeah. And then what was that one called? Something.
I forgot.
It's called something.
It was called something.
Yeah. And then he had his Starfighter thing that he made, which was pretty cool. From the
I liked the Bounty Hunter big ship better.
I did too.
Yeah.
But then and then in Star Wars Outlaws, I don't even know that. What's the thing called? It's called like the out. No, I don't know.
It's my point.
But it is a brick. It doesn't look like anything.
Yeah. But there's too many. Once you get every franchise has a ship with a name, it gets hard to keep track of it when there's this many.
But they don't even make it look interesting at all.
Yeah.
It is not. It's like a hangar and a cockpit and a couch. Not an interesting place to be. That should be. But anyways, the ship in this game that I've already forgotten the name of now is the Ebon Hawk. Is a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, classic Star Wars ship.
Yeah, but BioWare is good at making ships, and we'll talk about that when we talk about Mass Effect. But next up was Jade Empire. Jade Empire released in 2005, and man, I was excited for this game.
It's like KOTOR-ish gameplay.
Yep.
In a mythical Japanese environment. Chinese environment. Okay.
I believe it was Chinese.
Okay.
And yeah, and so you got to pick your fighting style, your like martial arts fighting style.
I remember playing this with you back then.
Yeah, I was pretty pumped about it. So yeah, this was 2005. So a couple years after this ranked in at an 89 on the Metacritic scale. The KOTOR was 94, but this was 89. So I mean, it's still very well reviewed, well liked. It was very pretty for its time.
Yep.
I actually went back and played this game like last year because of backwards compatibility on Xbox. I got the OG Xbox game. I played it on my Series X.
Yep.
And so everything is revved up a little bit behind the curtains, and load times are super fast and everything. But doesn't hold up that great.
No.
No.
So just kind of changing times and the way that
this is that's all it was. It's something that, unlike some other games that we'll come to, like I don't think you can go back and play this game and really just like be like, I'm gonna just really get into this.
Yeah.
But it's a good game. I played it at the time. I don't think I ever beat it. I fell off this game even back when it was first released for whatever reason. I got pretty far though, but I don't think I ever finished it. And yeah, going back, I barely got through the opening section. I was like, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
I wasn't really going back to be like, I'm going to play this whole game. I just kind of wanted to go back and remember it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really remember it very well.
Okay. Do you feel like it's in the style, the gameplay style of KOTOR, right?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. There's some differences because of the different like martial arts things, but it's still like sort of, you pick your action, they do the action. It's a little more real time than that. Mm-hmm. It's still not like, it's not like an action game.
Cool.
It's it's a little rough to go back to. I wouldn't mind going back again to check it out again at some point. But
yeah,
I also think when you're in these games, if you're not in the mood to just like sit there and really engross yourself and like kind of lose yourself, even when it's old and
yep,
and a little rusty looking. I wasn't really in the mood to sit there and read all the dialogue and really get into it. And then this is not the game that's gonna. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't have a fun game. It's not Space Marine 2. There's not a fun gameplay loop that's like not reading text and going from place to place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you got to be in the mood, right?
100%,
so if I'm in the mood to chop an alien in half, this is not going to be it, and just not read anything. But if I wanted to sit there and listen to the conversation, read, it's all voice acted. But I mean, it's just one of those things. I think that my mood for it wasn't right either when I tried to play it again. Yeah. So that may have had some coloring to it. But anyways, it was still a good game. And again, for its time, it was a very pretty game.
Yeah.
All right. So then after this, ooh, man, come on.
It's just step on your intro?
No, it's so good. That's perfect.
Great.
So this was 2007.
Yeah.
And
this isn't like just influential. Like this is potentially favorite game of all time territory.
And I really don't. People go in and be like, "Oh, what's your favorite Mass Effect game?" And I just see it as the trilogy is. I see it all as one. They're different games. I get it, but I mean, I see this as. This is Mass Effect. Yep. This is the whole story.
The whole story is 3 games long.
And I look at it as the whole. Yeah, we can talk about, So at this point, we've gone like game by game by game, but this is a trilogy, and like I was saying, like this is like one.
There's more than
thing.
3 too.
There is.
Yeah, there's.
So I want to just like talk. We'll talk all about Mass Effect.
Yep.
And then we'll go on to the other games.
Sure.
But in between the Mass Effects, we'll kind of fill in like this is when these other things come out, just so we can see the timeline, because I think the timeline is really interesting in like the production of video games and how it was done, and now how it is done now. It's very different. So like up until this point, like 1996, 1998, 2000, 2002, 2003, 2005, 2007.
So,
and then you're going to see even through, and that's Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2, 2010. Mass Effect 3, 2012.
So they're spending multiple years on a title at this point.
But they went, Mass Effect, and then in 2007, then Dragon Age in 2009,
Yeah.
and then Mass Effect 2 in 2010, Dragon Age 2 in 2011, Mass Effect 3 in 2012, Dragon Age Inquisition in 2014.
Yeah.
Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Just like knocking out games.
Do you think it's just they have multiple teams because they had more money and they could do that?
Well,
now,
they had multiple teams.
Keep a team working on either one, kind of alternating, and it just takes 2 years. And that's what it was because it feels like their earlier games were all 2 years spaced out, and then they started doing 2 years in each franchise. But it's like if they have a Mass Effect team.
Yeah, and they did.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, it's like Call of Duties every year, and you're like, oh man, they can produce a Call of Duty every year. They produce a Call of Duty every 3 to 4 years, but then they have 3 to 4 teams working on it.
Yeah.
So, and this was similar, but this is still one house, sort of development company, and under EA, who is producing a banger, massive RPG every year for 4 years, 5 years.
It's an incredible amount of work.
Insane.
Yeah.
And then, we'll see here that then the last real new game from them was 2019.
Yeah.
So anyways, I just kind of wanted to break that down, but let's get back to Mass Effect. I mean, if you thought KOTOR was like the influential big game, I could not believe when this dropped. And I was like, well, I got a new favorite sci-fi series.
Yeah.
And it's tropey, and it takes a lot of science fiction from different sources.
Sure.
But it's so good.
I mean, I think it falls into that category where, like, if it's not a established sci-fi franchise that has a style, then your default style is going to look kind of generic.
Mm-hmm.
Generic sci-fi look. Fantasy stuff has this too, right?
Yeah,
there's like stuff with a known style, and then everything else is just kind of generic. And honestly, there's I think that's how that goes. But this has definitely got some this is just standard sci-fi spaceship laser gun kind of feel, but they fixed that by having just an amazingly fun. I mean, the gameplay's fun, the story's great. Like, you get immersed real easy in this game.
And the lore in this game is deep, and and like the history of the different races. And I mean, you can even see like here, like Ashley, her armor is like totally generic, right?
Yeah.
Generic Space Marine, but I mean, I think the N7 gear is pretty dope, personally.
Yeah, they definitely did a good job on the N7 kind of branding stuff.
But then, like, Taurians I think they look awesome. Mm-hmm. Krogans. I mean, these are some pretty unique characters.
You're not wrong. They've done a good job of creating, out of generic sci-fi parts, creating some unique and interesting species and different things like that. I think you're right.
And
so there's like Rex is a Krogan.
So Mass Effect is a game that takes place in the future.
Okay.
After we find that humans find Promethean technology.
Mass relays.
And mass relays are unlocked, and that's what allows you to do faster than light travel across the galaxy,
where we find other species that have found mass relays.
Yeah, and then the central hub of this is the Citadel, where the major species come together to kind of assemble. They have their council there, and humans not a part of that because they're kind of newcomers, but. I mean, we don't have to get into the whole synopsis of the game, but the point is here, we've gone more, it's RPG. Again, it's action oriented. You've got both real-time shooting, and you can stop time, and you can order your teammates, your squad, which you have 2 teammates, to do whatever you want them to do. They have different powers or tech abilities or soldier abilities or grenades or whatever it may be, that you can go and do whatever you feel is right at the time. And so, man, that's all great. The gameplay is wonderful, but the storytelling, the narrative, the decisions that you make, and how that affects what happens throughout each game.
Yep, they did a wonderful job of putting your decisions into influencing kind of what would happen at the end of the game and how good or bad that would be. It's great.
And you know what I don't think is brought up often enough, is that they planned this as a trilogy. It was originally exclusive on Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
And since they knew it was going to be a trilogy, they built the technology so that all of your decisions that you made would carry over to the second game. And that had not been done before.
Yeah, no.
And I was like, that blew my mind. That you're like, you're telling me, like, when I get the second game, the decision I made, and yeah, you met a guy 8 hours into the first game, and you told him, hey, get out of here. I don't like you. Mm-hmm. You're annoying. And then in the second game, he shows up and he's after you.
Yeah.
That sounded like next gen, like, man, that's the future. And they did it. And I don't think they really give enough credit for that.
Yeah.
Because that was insane at the time. It's insane now.
Yeah.
Like, we still have to link accounts on, or you have to.
Right.
In the newest game coming out, like the Veilguard, Dragon Age the Veilguard, 3 decisions carry over.
Yeah.
From the previous game.
That's not.
And you pick them at the beginning of the Veilguard. And now, okay, technology changes and everything, so I understand. But it's like back here, they're just like, no, it's gonna go through. And
ultimately, the only way that really works really well is if you plan ahead in making
Mm-hmm.
the original game to where you save all those bits of information, for it. But
and so. Yeah, it makes sense why they can't do it now for a game that came out 10 years ago when they didn't know what they were doing next. But here they had a plan. A plan for a trilogy. Can you believe that? A story that they had a plan for? All 3 of them?
And an organization committed to making more than one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
So let me ask you a question. Pretty early on in this game, I believe you have to make a decision.
Yes, you do.
That influences who your party members are. Do we want to 1, 2, 3? Who did we pick for our team? I feel like you have to pick between Ashley and Cade. And
Ryan you do. Originally, I don't know. I can't remember who I picked my first playthrough.
Oh, see, I have maybe it's a mistaken belief system or a mistaken belief that no one ever picked Caden. Like, I don't think anybody picked Caden. I just don't think so. But maybe I'm wrong. I feel like everybody. Why would he's got a little bit of that Cartho nasty feel to him, you know what I mean?
Oh man, I can't believe we didn't talk about Cartho.
We didn't. That's a KOTOR reference.
Yeah.
There's a character that I think is universally hated. Basically, nobody likes Cartho nasty.
So
anyway,
well, nobody likes Ashley Williams though, because Ashley Williams is kind of a space. She's very opinionated on races.
She's a space racist. Okay.
She is.
Okay.
She is.
Yeah. No,
and so like that's part of her character. And
sure.
like over time you can either you can try to talk to her about the fact that she hates aliens, or
I actually think the right word is xenophobe.
That is
Yeah. Xenophobic.
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't like, I don't like, some certain race of the humans. She didn't like aliens, so xenophobic.
She was like,
so
everything to the right of here she didn't really like.
So, okay, but I went, like, when I played through Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I think I picked Caden because I don't remember who I picked now. I have to go back and look. But so at some point, pretty early on in the game, you have to decide who's going to stay and set off a bomb,
Yeah.
and who is going to go with you. And whoever you send to set off the bomb, like they die.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the first time I picked Ashley because I didn't really understand how horrible she was.
Yeah, how xenophobic she was.
But she, you know, I think I was trying to romance her.
I think that's what I think it was like everybody's initial idea, but then, you know.
Yeah, if you talk to her, you realize it's kind of horrible.
Yeah, it's not.
And Caden, but Caden's just kind of annoying, but he's not.
He's not as racist.
Yeah. So also it depends on what class you're playing too, because if you go back 1 second to this, like these bars above the heads, that shows you what they're strong in. Mm-hmm. And so Ashley Williams is a soldier. So
all combat strength.
And I never played a soldier. I never play a soldier in these games.
Yeah.
Never have once. But if you're a tech or like an infiltrator, and you are doing high stealth, or you're like a sentinel and you're doing high magic or whatever you call
biotics.
Yeah. So that that's going to depend. You're not going to, if you're a biotic, I'm not going to keep Caden around. He's a biotic. He's not going to even out my party. Ashley is. So I keep her if you're playing in like a sense of like, I want my party to be, but then you can just go with Rex because he's the best, him and Garrus.
Well, yeah. I mean, and each of the kind of base characters there have a different blend of that. She's the only pure combat character.
And then of course you have Tally Zora.
Yeah.
Who I of course named my dog after.
You did. He's slightly into Tally, I think.
No, I'm not one of those guys, but
okay.
Why would I name my dog that then? So I just thought it was a super cool name.
Cool.
And from my favorite video game trilogy of all time. So Mass Effect 2.
Can I say it again? This is like, I'm going to say it again. Like Mass Effect 2, you mentioned that they're all kind of a trilogy and you think of it all as one kind of thing. This is where, to me, it really picks up. I love Mass Effect 1, but the controls for Mass Effect 2 are so superior. Like, Mass Effect 2 forward, it's really playable. People that I've recommended Mass Effect 2 before have been like, I tried, I didn't, the controls were this or that. I was like, skip to 2 and go back to 1 if you'd like to, and they've done that, and they've enjoyed it. People, again, it's at the time when Mass Effect 1 came out, those controls weren't that bad. Mm-hmm. But I think by the time Mass Effect 2 came out, it's hard to go back. It's hard to go back to those controls from Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, and so that's one thing that Legendary Edition did, where it retrofitted those controls into one.
Right. Which is a great idea.
Yeah, and so a lot of people have a problem with that. So you have the popular opinion. The popular opinion is that Mass Effect 2 is the best one.
Yeah.
But there's a big group of people who really think that the first one's the best.
I think I think with the Legendary Edition controls, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think, but some people would disagree with that because of how they liked how you made decisions. There's more RPG. Yeah. So it depends on what you're looking for.
Sure.
But I agree with you. Like in the Legendary Edition, I played through the first Mass Effect. It was awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, if I had to pick one, Mass Effect 2 is just, it's such a clean story.
Yeah.
Suicide mission. The roster's awesome.
Yeah.
The stories are awesome.
The N7 armor and the ship are incredible. Mm-hmm. Like it's just a really cool game. All right, sorry about that, everybody. A little bit of a technical difficulty, power outage, but we're going to go ahead and continue without the camera because there's no lighting. So we're going to talk in the dark.
It's a candlelit podcast. So we waited for probably 30, 45 minutes for the power to come back on. Josh and I live lives in which we hit a day that we can podcast, so we're just going to do it.
We're just going to keep going.
We were talking about Mass Effect, and we were just getting on to Mass Effect 2.
Yep. And
how this is, most people would say this is the best Mass Effect because the third one kind of fell a little short in the end, which I don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
I have a controversial opinion about
Yeah,
Mass Effect 3 that they went and retroactively changed the ending.
yeah.
Um, but
I honestly, in what order you want to talk about that? Mass Effect 3 ending was. It feels like one of the earlier, just like fanboy outrage cycle things where it just there is not really very much they could have done that would have lived up to the level of hype that was going to be the end of the Mass Effect franchise. I think that was a pretty tall order to do to make everybody happy.
yeah.
And you can talk a lot about the way they tried to make everybody happy with different options and things like that, and ended up not making anybody happy. But yeah,
Yeah, they released some DLC to try to change the ending, but the initial ending, you had so just taking a step back to Mass Effect 2, you have a really specific ending there, right? And then you've got the suicide mission, and some people survive depending on if you get their loyalties, and of course you did because I mean, you had to. You didn't have to, but I had to.
sure.
But I wanted everyone to survive. If you didn't get their loyalties, they didn't survive. And so you had this big culmination, a big ending, a big payoff, and then in the final iteration, you had the selection of really three major endings, and all of the endings not only ended the trilogy, but really ended the universe as we
Yeah.
knew it, which, in my opinion, is what really upset people.
I agree. That's 100% what I was upset about with the original ending to Mass Effect was like, so there just can't be.
There can't be another one.
Yeah.
Well, not like I don't know. We're going to find out because they're making another one.
We are, yeah.
So the way that they made another Mass Effect was by making it in a different
Galaxy entirely.
Andromeda,
Yeah.
which we'll get to. But the third one I thought was good. I haven't played it in a long time. I'm playing through 2 in Legendary Edition. I stopped, and then I picked it up again, really to get some media for our discussion. And I forgot that I'm playing it on Insanity mode,
Nice.
which is insane. It is too difficult, but I'm going to try to do it because I've never beaten the game on Insanity before, mostly because most of the battles become very not fun.
Yeah.
And difficult. So, yeah, but I was definitely disappointed at the end of 3 just because I loved the universe so much.
Yeah.
And it was very sad to see that go. But it did come back with Andromeda. That was released in 2017.
I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people. It was kind of lambasted at first.
Yeah, and I played it at release, and like as soon as I beat it, they released a patch that made everything look better and play better and everything, which was really frustrating to me. But I do think that this game got a worse reception than I think it deserved.
Yeah.
It has a 71 Metacritic score, which isn't the best. Mass Effect 2, 96. Mass Effect 3, 93. Both stellar scores. Mass Effect Andromeda really disappointed on a lot of fronts. As far as the modern, the fidelity, the graphics, the voice acting, the motion capture, the facial capture, just wasn't that great. The story was still good, but I mean, it didn't make any sense. You're going to a new galaxy. They all have the same technology. Like there's one new alien race, and then it just like didn't really make much sense to me. And the way they got away from it was they all got into hypersleep and they woke up and now they're in a new galaxy, so we can keep going is kind of a cop-out type of thing. This was also planned, I think, to be more than one game for sure. They left on a cliffhanger, and I don't know. I was disappointed by it, but overall, I agree that it wasn't bad. It just didn't live up to what the Mass Effect trilogy gave us. And so, well, they're developing a Mass Effect 5, I guess. I don't know what they're going to call it. I don't know what it's going, I don't know. But hopefully it's good. And that will come after the next Dragon Age, apparently. So, wrapping up Mass Effect, you should definitely play Legendary Edition if you haven't.
I have to some degree. I can't remember where I left off in that, but yeah, no.
Yeah, it's a
really enjoyable.
They did a good job.
Yeah.
Love that. I love this game so much. So I played it. I started playing today. I was like, I'm not going to play this game. And I started playing. I'm like, oh man, it's just so good.
Yeah.
That I'd really like to finish up 2. I might drop the difficulty down just to finish it, and then play through 3. Then 3, the opening to 3, I really like, and the song in 3, I really at the beginning, "Leaving Earth" is oh man, it's so good.
Right on.
So good. All right, so Mass Effect, it's great. Top tier Bioware. So during that time, Mass Effect and Dragon Age went back and forth, but we're going to get to Dragon Age here in just a second. First, we'll talk about Anthem.
Yeah.
Anthem came out in 2019.
We're time skipping ahead a little bit because we'll talk about Dragon Age after, but yeah, Anthem.
We don't have to talk about Anthem very long.
No, I mean, my thoughts and memories of Anthem are one of the most hype cycle, like big hype games that I've ever seen. And the trailers were really, really impressive.
Oh, man.
But
it looked so good.
I don't know if it's me being an old man or what, but like every time something looks that good in a preview, my skepticism hackles go up. Like, I'm like, could it possibly be that good? You know?
Yeah, Anthem and like the original Watch Dogs trailer, and like now I see trailers and I don't really even think two thoughts about it. You know, like I just like take it with the grain of salt. I don't even really get into watching it, especially if I'm interested in a game. Now I'm not going to sit there and be like nitpicking all of these things because I just want to play it. But man, I thought this game was going to be so good. I played when the demo or beta dropped early. I was flying around and it felt really good.
Yeah.
The flying mechanics were great. The shooting was great. But boy, did it fall short. And repetitive. So just like some really poor design choices throughout. They made it this multiplayer game where you're playing with your friends and people are, story exposition is happening and you don't really know what's going on because your friend is talking about something else. I would spawn and it would just be black and my friends would be playing and I'd hear them fighting and I would just be sitting there stuck on a black screen, just frustration after frustration in this game where, I mean, the story was so predictable.
Yeah.
There was a point in a game where they're just like, oh, you can't go forward until you find like this 7 different things. And then you're just flying around trying to find these things to unlock so you can progress the story. It just wasn't good. It had all the potential in the world. It really could have been. And if you look up gameplay right now, you're like, man, this game looks awesome. It's not.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
I was really close to playing this game again for this talk just to see like how it holds up, but I didn't want to download it and you can't stream it, so I didn't. I left this one in the grave that I left it years ago.
It's one of those, I don't know if it's a cautionary tale, but it's like sometimes when there's like an ambitious idea and it gets packaged into a game, it's like the idea could be awesome, the execution on everything else has to be on point to kind of save that idea. Like, great idea is just that. The execution on the things that go around it to make the game good in general are just as important as a groundbreaking idea or, concept that would ultimately, I mean, I can't remember exact details, but I mean, it seems like, this kind of giant freedom backpack rockets, rocket pack flying around was really unique and interesting.
The feeling of the gameplay, flying, the jetpacks, like all that was really good.
Yeah.
but it didn't hit anywhere else. And the issue with they wanted to make a live service game.
Yeah.
They wanted to make a Destiny like, and in fact, the next Dragon Age was also supposed to be like live service.
Yeah.
Multiplayer game. They completely retooled that, and I mean it entered like a production hell, the next Dragon Age, and a lot of it was because this game they couldn't save it. They went back to the drawing board. They tried to save it, and then they were just like, "Nope, we're scrapping everything." Sorry. You know what the code name for Anthem was? Do you remember?
I don't.
It was Dylan, named after Bob Dylan.
Oh.
Because it was like going to revolutionize video games.
Sure.
And I mean, yeah,
It's
huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Huge disappointment. Just, but we don't really have to talk about it any longer because that's about it.
So now we're going to talk about Dragon's Age.
Dragon Age is a series from Bioware.
Yeah.
It's an RPG,
Mm-hmm.
as you would expect. Fantasy.
And timing-wise, the original was around the same time as first Mass Effect, right? In the same kind of era.
Yes, that is correct. It came after the first Mass Effect in 2009.
Yeah.
It got an 86 Metacritic score, or it has that now. It was very good. I played this at the time it released on Xbox, the original.
Mm-hmm.
And if you play it on PC, it plays very differently than if you play it on Xbox because it's much more that isometric RPG style, really pause issue commands more so than it is on the Xbox where it's really tooled for console. So they didn't really have that figured out at that point.
Right.
But if you see this HUD here pulled up, I mean, this is pretty much how they kept it through Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition, where you've got your powers or your skills in the bottom right-hand corner, mapped to X, Y, and B. And if you hold the R trigger, it will switch over to the ones you see kind of behind there.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a lot of skills in your repertoire there that you can go to quickly. So it's a little bit faster, but I mean, in Dragon Age Origins, you're hitting the A button while you're pointed at somebody, aimed at somebody, and then it's just going to go into an attack phase. You know, you're not going to, this isn't a one-for-one action.
Yeah.
Graphically, you know, for the time, it was pretty good. I thought, you know, playing it, and it gets up to res a little bit while I'm playing on Series X, and it looked fairly good. I mean, you know, as a lot of these games were, other than Mass Effect at the time, a lot of beiges and browns of the original Xbox and Xbox 360 era. But
it looks good.
This was a 360 game, but it was good in playing through and listening to the different dialogue and the story and the choices that I could make, like, were really enjoyable. And actually, I was really surprised, just briefly to talk about this, like, I was playing, it's called Origins because you pick your origin story right off the bat. Are you an elf, a dwarf, a human? And then each one of those has two different choices, like life paths that you could pick from that. So I picked an elf, and I was a city elf and not a wood elf. And so that's two totally different starting stories.
Yeah.
And so in the city elf, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be a rogue. This character's mom was a rogue, and I go out, and this character's mother was killed by humans. So I'm like, I don't like humans. And I made those choices in the dialogue, like, all the way through. And it was really well written choices. You know, it wasn't all good and bad. And then when you would make those choices, people would have, like, kind of decent responses to them that made me feel like, okay, like, I don't feel like I'm just an asshole saying this stuff.
Sure.
You know, like, you know, a lot of times in Mass Effect, when you would make a choice and you're the bad choice, it's like, man, that was like, who would say that? But we're getting some power back, maybe.
I think we just got power back. It's okay. We're going to keep it this way until the end.
So I was really impressed with that. I had some dialogue that I recorded. I don't know if we can even play that now, but it's the voice acting is really good. It was kind of funny and snarky at times. It was really dark at times. And I was really digging just going back and playing Origins.
Nice.
And then Dragon Age 2, a little more action oriented. You just play as a human only in this one. There's no choice to play elves or any other race. It's just human, male or female. You start with the same story for every character. It is kind of known to be rushed to production or to release, and it didn't fare as well on review scores, but it was still a good game. It has a 79 Metacritic score. This released in 2011, and you spend most of the game in like one city. But then the third game, Dragon Age Inquisition, came out 2014, and it was this is from the second game.
Yeah, big time improvement in graphics, it seems.
Yeah, and yeah, that's right there. That's Cassandra.
Okay.
So she's in Dragon Age 2. She is interrogating Varric, who is a dwarf, who is in second and third game.
Yeah.
And Cassandra becomes a party member in the third game. Cool. But this picture's from the third game at Dragon Age Inquisition. Graphics definitely improved. I mean, got some good looking stuff in here, effects wise, and I had to take this picture because I thought it was really funny. My character's on the left, and the she's like not very elegant apparently. It's like it's that's from the DLC, and then the next picture I thought was really cool. It's this is in the Fade. Actually, I'm sorry. This is in the Veil, which is important for the upcoming Veilguard, which is between the world, the physical world, and the Fade.
Okay.
But Inquisition, really good game. It won a Game of the Year from IGN that year. It was probably my Game of the Year, except for I actually didn't beat it until maybe a couple years later because it's so darn long. I fell off it and I didn't go back until like after I was laid up after knee surgery. And I was like, man, I'll try this game out. And it hit me really good at that point. And but yeah, I just finished the DLC here a couple days ago. And then so
that all kind of leads up to the impetus for like why we wanted to talk about BioWare in general and Dragon Age.
Exactly. Yeah, so I was talking to you that, man, the Veilguard, Dragon Age the Veilguard comes out October 31st.
End of this month.
Yeah, and it has some really good previews, influencers and media outlets who've gone and played the game, spending something around like 7-8 hours with the game. And everybody's coming back saying really positive stuff about it. The combat system feels great. A return to form for BioWare. Yeah. It's beautiful. It feels fluid. The choices seem like they're going to matter. The create character is robust. Like, there's not a lot of things that people are saying that are negative about this game right now. And I got pretty psyched about that.
Yeah.
You start talking about a return to form for one of my
favorite studios.
Yeah. I start to get a little excited. So that's why I go back and I start playing their old games. And I got to tell you, man, the Dragon Age games, I think you might find some enjoyment there.
I think it's definitely part of the plan to pick up and start a little bit of a playthrough of some of that. Because I'd like to play Veilguard. I'd like to know a little bit more of the lore. We'll see how long it takes me to get kind of caught up into that between now and the release of Veilguard. The likelihood is I may, on some of them, some of the earlier games, I may just watch a video about the lore and then catch up maybe on Inquisition or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. If you're going to play one, you should play Inquisition because the stuff that happens in that game is directly carried over
Oh, interesting.
into this. Now, it's not, like I said, there's 3 decisions that apparently, from what
Yeah.
they've said, 3 decisions. What you do with the Inquisition, what you discuss with one of the main characters, and then who your romantic person was.
Yep.
But you're not playing the same character in this game, the Veilguard, as you were in Inquisition. You're playing a different character. There's new companion characters. I really have been kind of staying away from a lot of this stuff. I've heard like just surface level because I don't really want to know anything more. I'm like, okay, I'm sold. Great. I'm going to play this game. When it comes out, I'll play it,
Yeah.
And, but I think going back and playing Origins and playing Dragon Age 2, like, do I think you need to go back and play those? No. Inquisition 2, I mean, like, I think you'd enjoy it, but it's much more, it's like open zone rather than open world. So you're going to get to a place and then you kind of go through just that. It's a little bit more narrow, but it's still huge.
Yeah.
And so, but there's a lot of really good mechanics there. And I think that it may be worth at least checking out.
Well, I'm good at the
Golden Path.
Golden Path speed run.
That's you.
When I want to. There are games where I'm incapable.
Yeah.
Like Baldur's Gate's really hard for me to Golden Path speed run. But Witcher 3, I think I may have broken some. I mean, it wasn't a technical speed run, but I definitely did not worry about side missions.
You did get through that game really fast.
Yeah.
Which
it was really enjoyable that way too.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you. Part of my frustration with a lot of those kind of RPGs that are open world and they're big is the side missions can overwhelm. Right. We've talked about my inability to get anything done in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's because side things that happen to you on the way to your objective derail me every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with you totally. Like there's a lot of games that I will force myself to totally stay away from side quests, and then I eventually sometimes just get stuck in them. But
so I might do a Dragon Age Inquisition semi-speed run.
I think that could be doable, given I haven't played the meat of the game, the whole game really since 2016 or something. But I played the DLC. It said it was going to take me like 8 or 9 hours. I do not think it took me that long. And I mean, it was no Shadow Broker DLC, which was phenomenally good for Mass Effect 2. Yeah. But it was fine.
High praise.
It probably would have hit a lot harder had I played it, 8 years ago.
Okay.
Whenever it came out, but it definitely is very important for the Veilguard.
Sure.
Because the main threat in the Veilguard, the original name was Dragon Age Dreadwolf, named after a character in Inquisition.
Okay.
But a bad guy.
Got it.
And that it was renamed the Veilguard, which, the veil is an important thing that separates the Fade from the natural world. It's what, if it doesn't exist, then the real world is in big trouble.
Got it.
So, got to protect it or guard it. If you will.
Yeah, if you will.
From the character who wants to tear it down. So.
Wolf it up. Anyway.
So, all right. With that, BioWare, man, I really hope that this game is everything that it is being said that it's going to be.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to talk about it after it comes out.
I think this one will be one to review. It's probably going to take a while to review because I'm sure it's going to be a 40-hour at least game. But
sometime in late November, I'm sure you'll be.
We'll come back and I'm sure we'll talk about it on what are we playing segments. But Yeah, everything I've heard is like you don't need to play the other games. You can just like catch up on stuff and then play. And that's a benefit of having only 3 things that carry over. Like not all of your decisions really matter as much in this one, but
Cool.
all right. So power outage.
It didn't really stop us.
Nothing can.
Nothing really can.
Nothing can stop us.
Exactly.
We're unstoppable.
As long as we have batteries, we're good.
Yes. So next week maybe we'll do this with power.
It'd be great.
Thanks, Josh. I had a really fun time with you today.
It's fun. Yeah. All right. Catch you next time. Thanks.
Goodbye.